Hi everyone, it's Rebecca Flores with Rebecca Flores Mentorship at RebeccaChannels.com, broadcasting live from my office. And I am so excited to tell you about a March special that I have going on. And I am giving people a minute to find out that I'm here. Okay, hi Michelle. So I'm just giving Facebook a little bit of time to let some people know. The more people that see me, then the more people will get their notifications. And I have kind of taken a hiatus from Facebook for a few days. Hi. Hi, Debbie. One of the things that I have found is that there are times when I have to just go within and do a little bit of my internal introverted stuff, because Facebook is so external and I love connecting with people, but sometimes I just get this like all of a sudden just need to step back from it. And I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook because it's so time consuming and mind numbing. And so I specifically have started scheduling, like setting a timer for the amount of time that I want to spend on each task on Facebook, because otherwise I'll spend way too much time on it. But yeah, I've just needed to take a break from Facebook a little bit. A lot of shifts and a lot of changes have happened over the last few days. And I'm wondering if anybody out there who's watching has experienced some of this influence of the energy that's going on. And the energy is a transformative energy in a lot of different ways, holographically, or you could say quantum. You could say multidimensional. You could also say that it is affecting the collective energy and the collective consciousness, and the aspect of how it affects us personally as well. So for me, I have been tired probably the last 3 days, maybe 4. That's the other thing. I tend to lose track of time. That's awesome, Michelle. I'm glad you're feeling centered and calm the last few days. The interesting thing is that everybody's body and mental body will be affected differently depending on a lot of different factors. So I don't tend to go down the rabbit hole because there's so many scenarios and so many influences and so many everyone's reaction to the energy will be different. And for me, there's definitely been a calming influence, but I'm usually a pretty calm person anyway. I get excited when I talk to people, so I have a lot of excitement, but I'm a very grounded, calm person anyway, and I do regular work and practices to stay very centered and focused, and also holding my intention very clear. So now that it's been a few minutes and more people have had a chance to jump on, I wanted to share about communication. There's so many topics. This is the other thing I experienced. There are so many topics that I want to talk about, and things are constantly coming to me for ideas, and all of the stories that I haven't even, like, my life has been great. My life has been an interesting life, and I've realized recently that telling that story and more stories about the challenges and the where I've come from, I'm a totally different person than I was 1 year ago, than I was 2 years ago, and that I was even 5 years ago, or anybody who knows me from high school. I'm totally different, and that's part of just the way that my life has worked out, is that I'm constantly in transformation mode, and I would get extremely bored if I wasn't. So the stuff that I realized when I was talking to a peer and friend that, and I don't openly talk about stuff that I've been through in my past, because to me the past is over. Hi, Gloria. So to me the past is over, and I'm very much always focused in the now. In this moment is where our power is. But something she said, she was kind of talking about a little bit of her past, and I mentioned something about my past, and she was like, what? And so she was like, you've been listening to my story and yours is way crazier, juicier. And she's like, I never knew this stuff about you. So I'm going to start revealing a lot more just in my posts and my videos about where I've come from, because I've come from a really interesting journey in my life to get to where I'm at now. And the only reason I mention that is because we're talking about communication. And I had to take a break, like I said, from communicating, actually in a lot of different ways, but for a few days, just because I need that like downtime and to go internal as well. And I go internal regularly, but this was a more concentrated time that I needed to go internal. And the power, one of the things that is so influential to us being in alignment with what we want to experience, what we want to create, is that our words and the way that we talk, we have to start to be really, really aware of that, because it's literally sending out, it's like sending out the signal of what we want to experience more of. And one of the examples, I took some notes because otherwise I tend to talk in spirals in all these different ways. And one of the ways that I wanted to mention, oh, that's right, how our voice and how we speak can influence our experiences in life. And one of my examples for me from my life is that I actually used to have a very hard time talking to people. And I never even wanted to, and this isn't a bad thing, but it's an example of how we can transform and experience things very differently. And our voice is so important. Using our true, authentic voice in the ways that we are personally here to express it is so transformative. It literally transforms our own experiences. And when I was, most of my life, I was extremely painfully shy. I was very fearful. And one of the factors of that was that, I was afraid to ask questions. I was afraid to speak up in class. I could speak one-on-one or maybe like in a small group of maybe 3 people, but otherwise that I was extremely self-conscious. And I even used to be so nervous about talking, and this was even to my fiance at the time, and he would get I think this was actually, I was going to say exacerbated, but I think it was made even worse for me because he would get impatient with me because I speak very succinctly, and that's just part of my personality, and that I started to stutter. And it wasn't just that time, but there were a lot of times in my life where I actually had a hard time communicating because of my fear, because of my sensitivity, because I was so self-conscious. And I was afraid of speaking my truth. Like, I didn't even know what my truth was, and I felt like so foreign in this place. So there were a lot of different reasons, but the fact is that because I didn't exercise my voice enough, and I also didn't have support. That's what I was going to do a video on. That's been the other really huge theme besides communication. Support. Having support is literally the only way that I've made it to this point in my life, because I didn't have a lot of support. I had very little support for most of my life, and it was a very, very lonely place to be. So anyway, I'm going to do another video about support and how important that is. But communication, I literally had times where I would stutter, and that in and of itself makes you so self-conscious. And another example of it's almost like a snowball effect, because when you don't feel like you're heard by people, that was the other aspect of my not being able to voice my truth and my authenticity and be who I am and speak my opinions. I lived in a very controlling home environment, a very challenging home environment. I mean, that's the politically fucking correct way of saying it, but let's just say it was dysfunctional. And I was afraid. I literally lost I literally had no confidence. So I guess I lost it because I was really little. As a little kid, I had tons of confidence. But the dynamic was different in the family when I was a child, and they treated me different. But all of a sudden, when I started reaching probably around 10 years old, the dynamic changed. And there was like this controlling, manipulative, possessive, intimidating environment that I lived in. And therefore it was like, because I didn't have that loving support, all of my confidence was just like gone. And I learned not to talk. I learned not to, I learned actually, and because of that, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was, and I literally had no confidence and I didn't really feel like I had a place in the world. And so the other aspect of not communicating was that my mother, and bless her heart, but to be honest, this is important. She was in the same environment. Obviously, we lived in the same house. And she now to this day, because her natural tendency is to speak her truth. She's, I'm very much into astrology right now, which I never thought I would be into because I'm so practical. But anyway, my spirit's drawn me to study astrology, and she's a Sagittarius. And if you know Sagittariuses, they just go, bleh! They like have no filter, and they don't even think before they just like speak things that are extremely blunt. They're opinionated, and they don't hold back, and it's totally natural for them. Like, they don't even question it. But she was in two abusive relationships, and then the third one was more like emotionally, verbally, kind of like suppressing. So she literally now, after like all these years of kind of having a really hard time communicating her truth and speaking up for herself, she literally, her voice is gone a lot of the time. Like, it's just not there. And so this is a physical manifestation of what can happen when you do not learn the power of speaking your truth. It literally changes your whole energy, and it affects the level of influence you have in your life and the experiences that you're going to have. So communication coming from the other aspect I want to mention about communication being a part of maintaining your power. Hi, Patrick Paul. Is that speaking from your highest truth, from your heart, is so much more effective in bringing through the energy of your higher self, your unconditional love that you are at your core. When we speak from our mind, it can be sometimes out of alignment with what our spirit, what our soul truly wants to say and how it wants to be expressed. When we speak off of our emotional reactions, again, it's like you're not giving yourself a moment to check in and to go within your sacred heart and allow yourself to move from that place and speak from that place. So the topic is communication tonight, and I just wanted to point out how this is one of the biggest factors that we have in staying in alignment with our truth, feeling that we are free. That's one of the biggest factors that I see that people that I work with and people that I talk to is that we have this tendency to feel trapped. We have a tendency to feel like we're restricted in some ways, and that we really just want to feel a lot more freedom in our life. One of the ways that you do that is you've got to be willing to go within and get in touch with what is your real truth. And that's the type of stuff that I'm constantly talking about, is how you do that. Aloha, my friend. How to get in touch with your inner, your soul, really, your soul, and which is your divine source, your divine truth, your divine love, the higher. I want to say that if you use the word higher, that's fine, but don't get caught up in this higher lower business. It's just like a bigger perspective of yourself as a spiritual being, as a spiritual entity in this beautiful, beautiful manifested place. Your word coming from that place within you is extremely powerful in expanding your own light. It allows you to begin to feel free. It allows you to begin to expand in your heart. Your heart. We're talking about your spiritual heart, your higher heart. And being willing to look at how you talk and how you speak, and whether that's typing, but we're specifically talking about the verbal communication, is so important to be able to get in alignment with your integrity from within. And it will affect how you carry yourself in the world and how comfortable you are being fully yourself in any situation. When you can just take, I'm going to give you another example of something in my life. I spoke about the type of environment that I grew up in, where I was afraid to speak. And that fear, I realized as I was in my 20s, when I realized that fear was actually a physical fear of speaking and standing in my truth and speaking my truth to some people in my family. And when I finally faced that, I knew I had been doing work, self-reflection work on myself for a few years. And now it's been several years, 20-some years. And I knew that I had to be able to speak my truth. And that was the only way that I was going to find freedom, and I was going to feel well, find some sense of peace. So I did, and it was one of the most frightening things that I've ever done. I was so afraid to literally just stand up to someone and say, I don't agree with that. This is my viewpoint, and this is where we stand. This is where I stand. And it's like now that's so commonplace for me to know that it's important to communicate, and it's okay for me. It's like I don't even think about it. I'm constantly evaluating how honest I am with everybody. But then I had not been able to speak my truth for so many years that I had to work my confidence up, calling in all my angels to please be with me as I physically was shaking with fear, to be able to come forward and speak in front of someone who is very intimidating on purpose. They were intimidating on purpose. So what happened was I was in this example, I did it, and it was amazingly cathartic, extremely healing to my heart and to my soul, to which my soul was never broken, but we speak of healing from our soul. Healing really the misperceptions that I wasn't able to speak my truth, that misperception where I believed in fear over love and the power of love, which is unbelievably powerful, and it's a real thing. And so doing these types of self-reflection things and being willing to speak your truth and be in integrity from your soul, you begin to have these deep, profound experiences of what that love is. And then you never look back, and it doesn't matter that anybody else might not understand, because it's a personal journey. It's a personal experience. And when I did that, it wasn't near as difficult as I thought it would be. It was extremely difficult for me in that moment to speak my words. But the reaction was nothing like, I thought, what's the worst that could happen if I speak my truth to this person? And the worst that I could see happen was that they would physically, hurt me. And I thought, well, so be it. So be it. I have to be honest. I have to be truthful with myself. And that didn't happen. In fact, there wasn't really even a reaction from them. And I think it's because I had done so much prayer and I had done so much willingness to be honest, that when you're willing to do that, when you're willing to verbalize your truth, no matter how fearful you may be, the reaction, if you can be in that place from your heart, the reaction is often going to be nothing, not even as close to what you think in your mind it's going to be, because our fear in our mind grows to be this humongous, what's that tallest peak, like Everest? It grows in our mind. Fear, it's almost like it just perpetuates itself when it's in your mind. But when it's faced on, when it's faced on, then it's nothing near, not even close, not even in the same parameter, the same world as what actually your mind was afraid was going to happen. So every time I'm willing to speak my truth, then throughout this journey, it got easier and easier and easier. And eventually, the thing that happens is I transform. I self-transform, because I began to realize what other things in my life I had been doing that just were not fully authentically me anymore. And despite my fear of breaking out of working a full-time job as an employee, the fear of the suppression of my own authenticity, being in alignment with my integrity, that feeling of not being authentic anymore, doing that work, was greater than the fear I had of going out as an entrepreneur on my own. And it's a good thing that I did, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you right now, and my life has transformed even more from taking that step and being willing to listen to my own inner guidance to become more free. So I'm so happy that you guys have joined me, and I wanted to just mention one of the things that I'm doing right now is a very special March discount on a channeling session. And this is really so I can touch more people, so that people can get a feeling for what I do when I do my traditional channeling. And it's a 45-minute channeled reading that is really an amazing transmission of divine light. And my heart just gets, it's pumping, and it just gets so touched just even speaking about it, because it's extremely powerful to allow the divine I am light to come through you. And since I began training as a channel with, I took channeling training back in 2008, I believe, but it's been something that's been in my heart for many, many years. And when in 2000, I can't remember, not too long ago, a few years ago, I started training with Betsy Morgan Kaufman, and her website is askbetsymorgan.com, I believe. Anyway, she has trained many, many people, and she is such a beautiful divine being of light. And she helped me to open my heart to being fully authentic with why I'm here and the type of light that I do, that I am able to bring through just by being willing to be a vessel, which is what I have my intention as, is to be a very clear, pure vessel for this beautiful expression of divine I am, source, God, light to come through. And I take it extremely seriously and have done serious work to be able to do that. So anyways, it's a serious business for me, but at the same time, it's pure joy and passion. So I want to tell you that I am offering a special through the month of March for a 45-minute channeled reading, and they are so beautiful, and they are quite transformative. They can truly be a miracle in how they affect you on many levels. And the special is $100, and it is through March, and I'll put the link in the comments. So if you're interested, I welcome you, and I am honored, absolutely blessed and honored to be able to connect with you in this way. Thank you so much, my friends. I've talked so long already, and I just love seeing you here. And I send you so many blessings of love and light to speak your truth, to stand in your truth, and be willing to open your heart to pure love, because it is right here within you. And the more that you're willing to express it, the more miracles and blessings that you experience. I speak from my own personal experience. Many blessings, my friends. Thank you. Take good care.